next coming up is another very, very interesting panel discussion for all of you, which is all about the future of unified measurement for digital platforms. This is where we focus on the need to build a common currency measurement for advertisement on digital platforms. We've got some amazing leaders joining us, so let me go ahead and invite them on stage. This particular session will be spearheaded by none other than Mr. Vivek Malhotra, Group CMO India Today Group. We in fact managed to gather his opening remarks right here. So I'm going to invite him on stage as well to spearhead this session. And meanwhile, while Mr. Vivek comes on the stage, let me also go ahead and invite our speakers who are joining in. Ladies and gentlemen, as a panelist, we have with us none other than Mr. Gulshan Verma, Chief Executive Officer, Geo Ads. We have with us Mr. Shishir Kataria, Head Marketing, Tata CLiQ. Mr. Nitin, Director, Business Development, Nielsen. And we have with us Mr. Tushar, Vyas, President, GroupM. You know, I must tell you, we have the heavyweights of the industry joining in. Can you please have a heavy round of applause? Bring the energy back in the air, and let's be all set to gather all these important insights from all of our speakers. With that, let me quickly hand it over to Mr. Vivek Malhotra. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Before we started, I said Tushar and Nitin are actually spoiling the average height of the room. So a person like me should be standing in front of them on the panel. But yeah, what promises to be a very riveting debate or a discussion today, because we've got the biggest faces. They've achieved a mark in all the fields that they've worked on. We have some of the brightest, and I actually start with Tushar, who's been an inspiration for me in many ways. He's the gentleman who's leading the transformation for GroupM. I'm giving your intro. He's also been the founding member of the digital practice, and he's a man who has many firsts on his name, including the Jaipur meets and all that happened in the digital space. We have with us Nitin, who's the man of the moment. He's the gentleman who's possibly has the solution to unified measurement. He brings with him a lot of global insights because of the network he leads. He's been working very aggressively on user interface, on analytics, and we look forward to a lot of insights from him. We have Gulshan, who's been a great friend. We've known each other. He's been with Hotstar before he became the CEO of Geo Ads, and he brings with him a lot of perspective on a varied spectrum of challenges we face today, and I have a lot of questions to ask him. And we have the youngest member. He's a marketing stalwart. He's played roles in marketing across FMCG, and now he's with Tata CLiQ. So welcome, Shishir. And I hope I've done justice to the introduction, unless you guys want me to add something. Okay, all right. Okay, so we'll start with you, Gulshan. As marketers dabble with all sorts of models, whether it's response modeling, whether it's attribution models, whether it is models which are in the space of conversion metrics, you've for one really distinguished yourself by making a lot of new digital products relevant to advertisers. So in this sort of scheme of things where new models are getting experimented, what do you see as reach builders, impact builders, frequency builders, and how have you been successful in making your products relevant to a large spectrum of advertisers? You've done that at Hotstar, you're doing that at Geo Ads.
Yeah, it was an interesting journey, I would say, and Tushar and Nitin and everybody here had a long journey and contribution in that. I think fundamentally the ultimate measurement is business. And are you selling more stuff? There's also obviously perception and brand value, which is also important. But in my world, I think my perspective is there's only two things that really matter, okay? What's your market share, what's your sales, what's your and then ultimately what at the individual level is the perception of your brand. All these things like clicks and downloads and installs are indicators or maybe leading indicators to get you to that point. So you talk about measurement, I kind of break it down to two things. One is measurement and one is unified, okay? We all know what sales is, we all know what perception is, and we have perspectives on that. I think the question becomes, how do you get a unified view on that? And that, I think, is a very tough question because, 25, 30 years ago when I was still at college and we were trying to figure out life, we all did the same thing, but we were chatting on the phone. A video ad can, I fundamentally believe in, and this is my thesis as a hot star, was an ad running on lean forward content like IPL or ICC is different to an ad running on an aggregator and should be measured differently, and is also different to an ad running on a news feed, with the sound off. And, in the old world of linear TV, I don't say old, it's still a big world, we all had people who basically doing the same thing. We now have different contexts of which people are able to reach. So, the whole idea is that media is no longer the only place where you run ads. You run it on e-commerce, you run it in retail stores, anywhere there's a surface and a touch point. And that becomes very hard to do a unified measurement. I think the other thing that's also happened is expectations of the advertiser side have also grown. So before we used to do a panel, and the panel is important, but now people are expecting individual deterministic data. So show me the user who has seen my ad and then gone to Agio and then bought the Nike shoes, okay? Show me that individual and then show me what happened after that. So panel is not enough anymore. So I think expectations have happened, I think, which is a good thing. We as an industry have to go and drive that. I think we've confused the industry a lot with different metrics. And the whole idea between what GeoAds is trying to do, at least in my theory, is can we put the link in between business and sales and through our retail assets, through our media assets, and through our connectivity data, which means we know who the user is. The unified one I'll leave to somebody else, but the only thing I say is we're very clearly not unified, and we are a 50,000 crore industry. So is there a problem? Not sure.
Yeah. No, that's great. I think that's a great perspective, and in an age where the marketer is looking for a single source of truth, I think we're managing to find value and be a part of that value chain. Now coming to Shishir, you would be sort of facing the same challenges. So while Gulshan and I go and pitch products to the market, you're using those products to build your media plans. And you would have a similar need for a unified measurement and sort of continuity in the metric that you're using. So a very interesting point you made the other day is what really is the definition of a view? Is it constant across? What really is engagement? So as an industry, have you been able to give you something that's consistent for enabling your decision making?
Yeah, thanks, Vivek. I think Gulshan brought up a couple of very interesting points, and I think any true, I would say, business person would abide by that. That essentially the goal of the business is to drive profitability and drive consumption. And I think in consumer tech businesses, as a marketer, as an advertiser, I think that's even getting more and more scrutinized. The efficiency of the marketing dollars. Are we getting the right output from whatever money we are putting on different platforms, right? So I think purely from that lens, there are essentially two, I would say, broad level issues which we advertisers face when it comes to finding the right ROI or output of the marketing dollars, that are we doing the best of best-in-class strategic planning because of difference in measurement across the platforms. Like for example, Gulshan rightly pointed out that an out-of-context advertising, or let's say an advertising on mute, is it the best engaged video view versus, let's say, on OTT, where people are more engaged? How do you take that into account? Second is, the second point is how do you map, and this happens a lot in e-com, mapping consumer journeys, right? Essentially, if I have to break up the demand, it's essentially two big buckets. It's generating demand and converting demand. I think generating demand essentially stays with the surface level metrics, I would say, driving advertising for awareness. So what are the right measurements and metrics for, let's say, a video campaign? Is it a 3-second view? Is it a 5-second view? How engaged is the view? All those things. I think a larger problem starts coming in when we start talking about converting demand, which is the attribution model. I think, let's say for the big, I would say, big consumer tech players, they follow different attribution models. What is the look back window? How many days back should an advertiser see in terms of clicks and attribution? There are also internal models that we follow. And I think the right ROI cannot be, I would say, calculated till these two models, which is internal and external attribution model, they come very close and as close as possible to each other, because I think that's where both we advertisers and partners out there can, I would say, have a combined face that this is the right ROI, which is essentially driving the ecosystem forward. So that's largely the point on I would say, finding that's largely the point why we essentially are moving towards or wanting to have a unified measurement. But I think before unified measurement, I just want to say that one step behind comes uniform KPIs, which we talked about, that, what is the right definition of view? What is the right definition of engagement? What is the right definition? Like, for example, an engagement for one platform could be like. Engagement for one platform could be comment. Can we as an industry at least have uniform KPIs for at least standardized products? And I know, like stalwarts like Gulshan will come up with 10 different products every day. Yeah. But that cannot be standardized. But at least for the bigger products, can it be standardized, at least from a uniform KPIs metrics point of view?
So that's a very interesting point. And Nitin, I think the two gentlemen on my left have articulated the problem, waiting for a solution from you. So in a cross-platform world, I mean, the number of screens that we're spreading ourselves onto, how does a company like you bring out a solution where Shishir can make a decision based on something that the industry is providing him and not the internal models that he has to rely on in the absence of something that is standardized?
Look, let me start with saying that I certainly acknowledge the complication which it has, and we are talking about multiple devices, multiple platforms, multiple formats within those platforms, and eventually we are trying to unify, the measurement unit here out of all of these. So it is certainly a complex one, and more so when there are other traditional medias are also jumping on the digital side of it, whether it is the CTV we are seeing the growth which is happening, or the out of home which is now emerging. So each of it has its own metrics. There are no unified metrics as such which exist. Having said that, I think from a solution perspective, especially from a Nielsen point of view, we do have a lot of sophisticated advanced analytics tool. We certainly combine the data from a deterministic as well as a probabilistic perspective. Till the time you don't have a unified metrics, I think we really have to depend on that. It's also about working together as an industry. I think we really need to open up with each other to really bring that solution out from a broadcaster perspective, from a publisher perspective, from an advertiser, agency perspective. I think we really need to integrate each other, solution, and then we eventually will get that unified view, which we are talking about, which we are trying to achieve. That certainly brings very important role from an efficiency or an ROI perspective. But having said that, we are still talking about individual silos which may or may not talk to each other. Utilizing the analytics capabilities, there are ways, and putting the machine learning on top of the data, we do reach to certain consensus. In fact, we do marry census level data along with the panel level data for the calibration correction. So there are statistical ways to utilize it till the time we don't have that unified metrics, which certainly industry is really looking to.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. So there are these, people attempt to work with Bayesian models, with models that give you an impact of one channel over the other. So, Tushar, moving to you because I think he's set the context. He's brought in panel, he's brought in sample, he's brought in universe. And you're finally, I mean, the person who's sort of charting transformation for the biggest set of clients in the country. Now, how do you see this panning out? Because you're getting data in silos. You got to make a decision where the KPI is very clear. You have to give a ranking to qualitative factors, to quantitative factors. And is there some way that you, in your mind, are able to fix that this is the true reach? Just a very simple, basic question, that this is the true reach of my digital campaign. Have you ever been able to arrive at that, or do you still miss it?
Vivek, just before I go there, maybe I'd like to build on what Gulshan has started, right? Am I audible? Yeah. I think the fundamental truth remains, and he articulated pretty well, so what it does to business and maybe what it does to brand. Maybe what it does to brand is maybe a lead indicator. What it does to business is an immediate indicator, right? And if you look at exposure to that stage, it's okay to measure the journey because there are milestones in between in most of the cases. But when problems start when you start measuring too many vanity metrics, right? So that's the problem number one. The problem number two is not you just measure, but you start optimizing on those vanity metrics. So that's sometimes you make another sort of bigger mistake there because you are optimizing stages which many times is not even necessary in the journey. Right, so that's a trap, and industry often keep getting into that trap, likes and engagement and all kind of thing, which platform keep floating in terms of vanity metrics. So it's okay to keep in a way like a sort of bird's eye view in terms of what's going on and be focused on those two objectives. It's okay to measure in between stages, but don't fall into sort of trap in some of measuring the wrong thing. So starting point need to be measure what matters to you. And it may vary from the brand or categories or type of business, right? If you're running a digital business, what you want to measure is very different compared to if you're running a FMCG business, which has got 80% offline distribution, then what you want to measure may be different, right? So that's a fundamental starting point. Two things which has changed in my mind fundamentally after the sort of growth in digital. One is, the primary prism has shifted. So what used to be is very, very placement and media-centric measurement, right? My Times of India front page, being onto KBC, being onto IPL. So it's a placement is a starting point when you do a plan. The prism is moving more to audience. This is my core audience. So it's what used to be a media planning is becoming more and more audience planning kind of prism, where you're looking at audience, then you're looking at journey, and then you're identifying touch point, not the other way around, right? Yeah. So that is a transition which has already started for a few years and which is going to that direction more and more. So that's change number one. Change number two is what used to be very a sample-driven measurement method is becoming more and more hybrid measurement method, and Nitin sort of touch upon that. So sample and census data are going to coexist, and as an industry we need to start, get used to that environment. And there might be industry solution, there might be bespoke solution, right? So some point you measure at industry, but there are many areas which you measure at your organization level, your consumer level. And that's where the entire sort of work happening in areas like setting up a CDP, consumer data platform, understanding the core consumer. Those are also critical, important steps which marketers are taking.
Yeah, you make a great point that we're moving from media planning to audience planning. So in a way, I think what logically or sequentially follows is that we should be gathering data at the audience level and not at the media level. Because right now, I think there are various media vehicles coming to you with the data at the media platform level, but we don't have anything that gives you data at the audience level. And now I add another challenge to you before you take this one, that we're also prepping for a cookie-less world, and logs and all of those will not be available for you to take real-time action. So while there is problem number one, I am adding problem number two. How do you help us solve that?
See, the digital environment is not a single format, so that's a starting point, right? So if you put a same measurement metrics, what you used to apply in a traditional environment, it may not work, right? So there's a static, there's a moving image, there's a video, there's a, context like search, and also it's a, multiple environment exists within that. So when you try to look at, that lens, you, in a way, starting with the wrong method to unify. And you are setting up to failure in a way because there's a different environment you're trying to measure. But when you look from an audience angle, it's easier to unify because you are following certain journey, you are following touch point, and then sort of you are looking at it. So that's where the entire tech stack and marketing stack is in a way in a new avatar is changing to that dimension. So it's a journey. It's not something yet perfected, but something which will keep evolving. What you see is a more of a data collaboration happening in that environment. Yes. between publisher and brand, between different platforms. And that's where, some of the initial indication are, evolution of data clean rooms and those kind of environment where you can pick up a data from a brand which understand their consumer the best, platform maybe they understand their behavior the best, and maybe commerce kind of platform which maybe understand their purchasing pattern the best. You might combine the 2-3 data sources and start making your decision on those areas.
Yeah. So I think the heart of the matter lies in collaboration. I think it's central enrichment that gives you more intelligence, more value. So now, Gulshan, there is a little bit of a contrast here. Now, if you're moving away from media or a media format and looking at the audience and how we can reach that audience, the question to you is that why should I pay you a premium for a live match when I can reach the same audience somewhere else? Now, I'm taking a little an example like there is a spot on your live stream versus an influencer post. Now, how do I compare the two?
Hi, can you hear me? Yes. It's a good question. I think there's, I think choice gives the buyer a better negotiating position. It's, I think, a first statement, right? 20, 30 years ago, the only way to reach a certain audience was to buy the Times of India front page. Now, user base has gone up, but the media consumption has gone up 10x or 20x, which means that you have multiple choices. And I think that's a fair point from any marketing perspective, that I have to choose the most efficient methodology to decide where to place my ad. I do think that there's some value to the context, and the context does include the quality of the media as a media publisher. But the bigger question right now is, in my view, what is being used to measure that efficiency? So whether you're using a third-party MMP or you're using an ad tech or MarTech tool, that information is being controlled by multiple players, and for good reasons. Unfortunately, I will not be in a position to say that being on GeoMart, I can give that flow of positioning and that audience because it's a critical data point for me. Same on GeoTV or GeoCinema or GeoTV Plus. So I don't have an answer to this, but I think there has to be some version of the world where we can talk about a unified view, maybe on a sample basis. But I think that there is a problem when we start depending on nominally independent tools. And we talked about this as well. The other issue we haven't really talked about is the dependence on metrics is also a lack of trust. There is a huge amount of perception of fraud. Okay, people claim attribution for multiple downloads. People claim, credit for brand shift and BLS. So there is a lack of trust in this industry that a unified solution would help. Correct. I don't know how we do it because, how would, I'm just taking e-commerce, how would Amazon, how would Myntra, how would Agio and GeoMart kind of work together? Not sure, okay? But if you think about search, if you think about video and display, you know, that's also a different conversation. I think many years ago, Bark tried to pull something together for digital video, and it failed simply because the cost of content doesn't really help, it doesn't get figured in. And that's a fair enough point from, you know, Shishir's perspective.
Yeah.
It's a user, right?
Yeah.
Do I care whether he's watching a UGC video or do I'm watching like something else? Or being on India Today and, you know, being deeply engaged? There has to be some downstream metric that makes sense. But I think my view is that it's going to be very, very difficult to get all the platforms together.
But there is a dire need of a universally accepted tool. And I think, Shishir, we'll take a quick one from you before we take closing comments. But you know, as I understand from you, your problem is twofold. One is the consumer, the other is the consumer journey. Now, every time we go and track the consumer journey, somewhere or the other that chain is broken. Now, how do you deal with that? Because that's also something that industry needs to collaborate and give you a unified view of the consumer where the chain is not broken, so that you can take a decision.
True, Vivek. I think coming back to the original question where you asked that what if suppose a user is seeing an influencer post, or if a user is seeing an ad on, let's say, a JioCinema, right? What is driving the conversion? I think these are the questions that we truly grapple with on a daily basis, right? Because we are running ads across 10 publishers. And most likely what happens is that the platforms closer to the purchase journey gets maximum amount of attribution. But that doesn't mean that an ad on, let's say, a JioCinema or a UGC is not effective because they're far away from the purchase journeys, right? I think that's where probably, and I hear the challenges with sort of, I would say, collaborating across different publishers, but that's where I think the industry will move forward, because if we are not having a unified view, we are, I would say, penalizing some great publishers who would be doing great work on generating demand,
Correct.
but not so close in the purchase funnel or cycle in converting demand.
Correct.
And that's where essentially they are also losing the
Correct.
potential advertising dollars.
Correct. Absolutely.
So I think that's why I think the unified or singular consumer journey is important. And I know it's too far in the future right now, but
No.
I think that's where the
Yeah.
need is for the entire
Yeah.
ecosystem and for us as an advertiser.
Correct. So, Tushar and Nitin, I think we'll take closing comments from you, and we'd want you to crystal gaze. So, you know, from the Nielsen standpoint, I think we really want to know what Nielsen 1 is all about, and CTV as the new big thing, which is making a unified view even more important, because it's borderline broadcast, borderline digital. And Tushar, I think you've done a lot of work, and you'll be able to give us some view on, you know, how does this whole concept of data lakes, where, you know, you don't have personal identities moving out, but you have people collaborating to enrich that data lake so that each one of us can dip into it and make it work as an industry solution. So over to both of you.
Well, Nielsen 1 is basically, we just launched it, and it's on a global level. It's kind of an amalgamation of all the 4 screens which are there, including the computer, the mobile, the CTV, and the television. It's not in India yet because of, you know, the TV data managed separately, so Nielsen is still trying to work and getting that unified view from these 4
And India
screens.
needs it the most.
Yeah. So, but yes, it is available globally, and that's kind of gives us you know, our clients a unified view from all these 4 screens perspective. Talking about the CTV very briefly, I think it's very important to understand the background of Indian landscape when you talk about CTV. It's not exactly the same as it is in the Western countries. You know, the Wi-Fi penetration is not that high still in India. There are youngsters who are buying a phone of 50,000-60,000. They may not like to spend another 50,000-60,000 on a smart TV. And as a device itself, CTV is very complicated. You know, it's not one single source through which it is streamed. It could be mirrored, you know, by the other device. It could have a DTH on it. You know, in spite of having a smart TV, there could be DTH connection on it. There could be Amazon Fire Stick. You know, there are multiple sources through which the content is coming onto it, and hence the measurement becomes further more complicated. Even from a consumer perspective, it does have those complications. If it is a kid's content going on, there could be a mother sitting right next to the kid. Now, who would you treat your audience as? So it does have those complications. In fact, but from Nielsen perspective, we do have a product roadmap for launching CTV integration in the early next year. Yeah. And we are already working with a lot of CTV players, and we are hopefully very soon we'll have that solution in place. So yeah, that's something which is up on the table.
Yeah. Tushar, over to you as the man of the moment.
Yeah, so again, as I said, the entire shift toward audience, and a lot of our clients are setting up basically what I call is broadly know your customer kind of environment, right? So again, tech stack would be more in line of a CDP kind of structure. But how do I understand my consumer deeper and use that learning to build my marketing program more effectively in a larger ecosystem? And there can be a various dimension, right? So for example, a category is more impulse, then you're looking at how to map the occasion and how do I enable my system to do more real-time marketing. If I'm building on a flavors and taste, I try to understand flavor and taste pattern and what's the implication on my new product development and how do I create more relevant segment for that. So it can be different for a different category, different client. And build that as a core of your marketing stack or marketing ecosystem. Connect with the platforms, connect with the sort of publishing ecosystem, and try and reach out consumer in a right environment. And that's where your earlier question, right? There's still value in terms of medium as a message. So what environment you are reaching, what platform you are reaching, how your message is more contextual to that platform, right? So where you are treating maybe a short video platform versus a social platform versus a search need a bit of a different treatment, and that continues to remain valuable from that perspective.
Yes, great. That is great input. So thank you, gentlemen. I think this was a lovely discussion, and I think there is a broad agreement that it's not a matter of whether or not, but I think it's how soon can we actually have tools that serve the business decisions and not the other way around, that business decisions are made basis the tools available. So thank you very much, and I hope you all enjoyed the discussion.
Sure. Thank you once again to all of our speakers, and thank you very much indeed, Vivek, for beautifully moderating the session for us. I'm going to request you all to please come together for a group photograph. And meanwhile, we also have Root Mobile as our platinum partner that is presenting these wonderful gifts as a token of appreciation to all of our speakers. So if you could please have the team to also present the same to our panelists for being part of the session. Thank you once again for joining us. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, another very enriching and a very enlightening session there for all of us. But that being said, once again, I'm going to urge you all, please connect with our speakers offline.